I could go on and on for years, probably. I could write a Indeed story book. But today I'm going to start it off with the 3 stories that I picked out that for me were really, really bad. Hi, if you're new here, I'm Voyia. A lot of people have been asking me about my Indeed horror stories because of the simple fact that I have so many. I'm telling you, I could write an Indeed horror story literally. Like off the top of my head, I could think of 5 more to add to this, but today I'm going to stick with 3. And if you want me to do more, please do not hesitate to ask. I don't mind. These stories need to be told because Indeed needs to change something. I don't use Indeed anymore because it's so bad. And if my voice sounds weird, it's because I am sick, so bear with me. I do apologize if I sound a little weird. Now, before we get started, it would mean the world to me if you guys liked, comment, and subscribe. I was going to make these into shorts. I should make these into shorts. My Indeed horror story. I'm going to make these into shorts. Okay. Let's start with the first story. I filled out for a secretary job long time ago because I really wanted to get into doing secretary work because I did it for a year and I really enjoyed it. It's a little boring, but I did enjoy it heavily. So I filled out for a secretary job in the new state that I was staying in, like almost a month in going into that state. However, when I filled out for the job, I didn't hear anything back. So I took it as cool. They didn't hire me. That's okay. And I'm okay with that. But then something happened, and it happened almost a month later. I got a envelope in the mail, and it was labeled with my name on it. Big envelope, and I opened it, and it was a check to be cashed for $5,000. I got the envelope and I called the bank that it was linked to ask them whether or not, like, hey, is this something that y'all do? 1, is this check valid? 2, 3, how do I report this? Because I don't think this is something that should have been sent to me. It has my name on it and everything. They said that, oh, that's just a scam thing that people pull. They try to get you to cash a check, and once you try to cash a check and it fails, then they try to do it on their end by getting all your information. And I'm like, I've never run into that before in my life, but thank you for letting me know. So somebody called me 2 weeks later and said, they didn't ask me, they demanded me to cash that check. And I was like, no, I'm not going to cash that check. They absolutely was like, you cash that check now. Like right now. Like the lady was like demanding me, go and cash that check right now. Don't be stupid. And that's the end of that story because I hung up in her face. Story 2, Indeed horror story. There was a lady I was talking to, and this time it was just about a job working in a factory. This lady constantly over and over again messaged me over and over again. We did phone interview after phone interview after phone interview. And I'm like, okay, this is the 3rd interview. At some point, you're going to hire me, or you're going to toss me on my butt and say, nah, we don't want you anymore. And cool, I can move on to the next job. It would have been that easy. But she just kept calling me and like, yeah, this is your 4th interview. This is your 5th interview. And so I just started joking around on there. I was like, yeah, I used to peel potato skins with my toes and stuff just so she'd get off the phone with me and leave me alone, because at this point it's harassment. I've never been harassed with an interview over and over again. I've been harassed in interviews, but I've not been harassed with interviews over and over again. But I digress. This lady immediately says on our last interview or our last interaction on the phone, she tells me, the only way for you to get this job is I have to come to your house and interview you face to face. I literally froze. I didn't know what to say for like 5 minutes. And then she's like, hello, are you there? And I was like, yes, I'm here. That's kind of how I answered. I was like, yes, I'm here. She's like, okay, so I need your address. I need to know if you live alone. I need to know if A, B, and C, is this your real phone number? And all this other stuff. I'm like, I didn't agree to the interview. And she's like, oh, so are we not doing an interview or not? And I just hung up. didn't know what to do. She called back like 4 times, but then she stopped. And I was just like, what kind of you getting ready to get kidnapped story is this? I cannot. Like, I don't think I could have came up with a better story in my head. And I write. I don't think I could come up with a better story in my head to pull off a kidnapping, because that sure sounded like it. Tell me if that sounds like that to you, because that's what it sounded like to me. Story number 3. This one really hurts my heart because I love kids. Most of you know that I started off working as a nurse. But before I wanted to be a nurse, I wanted to be a teacher heavily. I'm talking like I truly, from the bottom of my heart, wanted to work with kids in some shape, form, or fashion. So I started studying early childhood development. I had in my head that I was going to be a pre-K teacher. And that was my first goal, because I loved the younger kids more than I was like, oh yeah, I'm willing to work with high schoolers and stuff. I'm 5'6". Them high schoolers are beating you up. I'm not. No, ma'am. No. Anyways, so the lady called me, and this was working at a daycare / school. She asked me, have I ever had training in it? I did have training in it for quite some time. I actually worked as a teacher's aide for a very long time. So she's like, okay, so you have some type of teaching and stuff. And I was like, yeah, but I quit it to work in a nursing home. So she was like, worst case scenario, you may not can be a teacher here, but you could be a daycare worker. And I was like, okay, I love kids. I really do. So I was like, I don't mind working in a daycare. That makes them even younger. And that means that I don't have much to really worry about. And I'm okay with that. Fast forward, this lady told me to come in for an interview. She specifically said, come in for an interview. And I said, yes, ma'am. You know, she's older. I respect my elders. I was like, yes, ma'am. I'm coming in for the interview. Walked in. She gave me an apron. I was like, oh, is this part of the interview? She was like, yeah, the kids are finger painting, blah, blah, blah. Come on in. And she's like, you can sit right there. And she's pointed at a chair next to her desk. I sat in that chair, and she's like, yeah, grade these papers. I was like, okay. And so I started grading the papers. There were kids walking up to me and asking me for stuff. And I was like, I'm sorry, I'm new here. I don't know where that stuff is, but let me ask your teacher. She's like, oh yeah, it's over there. Oh yeah, it's over there. It's over there. It's over there. And I'm like, you're telling me all this stuff, but we're not interviewing. This went on for 5 minutes, right? I had a ride waiting for me because I was like, yeah, I'm going to go in here and do this interview, walk out. She immediately said, okay, it's time for lunch. Like after 5 minutes, like it's time for not lunch, but like first snack, I guess. And so I was like, okay. She's like, yeah, round up all the kids, take them to the bathroom, then bring them in to make sure they wash their hands, and then bring them back into the lunchroom. It makes me uneasy to tell this story because not only did she have me take these children to the bathroom, they let me take these children to the bathroom alone. I'm like, oh my God, I will never let my kid go to a daycare. I could have been anybody. I could have been a kid kidnapper, and that's the minimum of what I could have been. You left me by myself in a bathroom, in a closed door bathroom, because she was like, yeah, you have to close the door, otherwise they'll run away. So they closed the door, left me in the bathroom with these kids, and I was just mortified. I was so angry. Yes, I still helped them and stuff, but I was just like, okay, maybe this is part of the interview, but no, you should never let these kids be with a stranger. And I even mentioned it to the lady who was supposed to be interviewing me. I was like, you should never let these kids be with a stranger. She's like, you're a girl and it's perfectly fine. This is the part of the interview process. You're going to work a full day. I was like, you didn't tell me I was working a full day. I have a ride outside. My ride agreed to stay for as long as possible, so thank goodness. But she was like, yeah, take them to the bathroom. These kids are just like willingly going to the bathroom. So then that made my mind race. Like, how many people have y'all had in here doing this with these kids? These kids are far too trusting. These kids are far too trusting. This is scary. This is so scary. So yeah, I absolutely positively was just shocked at that point. And then every kid that needed to go to the bathroom, whether it was poo poo or pee pee, they sent me. I'm like, and she's like, make sure you close the door because they will run away every time. And I'm like, I'm gonna leave the door cracked because first off, you should not be trusting a adult woman in a room that you do not know personally with a child. So I'm gonna leave that door cracked. I'm not gonna close this door. And not one kid had ever tried to go to the door. They lined up. They were so perfect. They lined up at the door and waited for me. Like they were trained already to do so. They never once ran out the door. So there was no need for me to close that door. It was insane. Then the lunch came. Then they had me teach a class. I'm like, wait, I have no credentials to be teaching. It's like, yeah, but we just want to see how you work with the kids by yourself. They left me by myself and they walked out of the building. It was 3 women in there. All 3 of them walked out of the building and left me by myself. I don't care if there's cameras in there. I don't care what it is. You left a strange woman in the room, and I'm strange to y'all. And in a sense where like, you do not know me. You don't know anything about me, and you left me in the room with these kids. Luckily, it's me, so they had nothing to worry about. But still, how many people have you done this with? If this is part of the interview process, at least have somebody monitoring me to make sure I'm doing it right. I could have took those kids to the bathroom and not wiped them at all. Let's not even talk about the worst of the worst. Let's talk about the fact that I could have took those kids to the bathroom and not wiped them at all. Let them poop and like, I'm not gonna wipe your poopy butt, and pull their pants back up and sent them on their way. Do you know how bad of a rash that a child will get leaving pee poo poo on them? Then it was nap time. They had me put every kid down. I put every kid down. Again, the kids were well behaved. They weren't running around. They were silly, goofy children, and they went down easily. And then I got the interview, and the interview lasted 10 minutes. They asked me, have I ever worked with kids? They asked me, have I ever worked in a classroom setting? And they asked me, do I have children of my own? I don't have children of my own. I have worked in a classroom setting, and I have absolutely worked in a daycare as well. And also I was like, you want some of my, on the resume, I was like, you want some of my people that, I've usually worked with this, this way? And they were like, nah, we don't do that here. Just, go get your first aid license, because my first aid license had expired. So they're like, yeah, you have to go get your first aid license, for, first aid. And then you just come on back the next day and we can get everything going. And then they told me, this was the worst part of the worst, because I hate how this happened to me so many times at jobs. I asked how much they were paying. So, excuse the air. I did not turn the air off. I asked them how much they were paying, and they said, well, we're paying $7. The job was labeled as a $13 an hour job, and a $13 an hour job. And I was like, oh, that's not that bad. I guess like that's lower than anything I've ever worked, especially when dealing with children. They usually offer more, but I understand. That's okay. She said $7.25, and I immediately was like, this isn't the job for me, and got up and left. And when I went back to the car, it was Song. I explained the Song everything that happened. He was like, did they tell you were going to work a full day? I was like, no, and I'm not taking a job. It's 30 minutes out of its way. Adding up the money that I would be making plus the price of gas, I would have been in a negative. And not to mention the hours I would be working. I'd be only working 4 hours. That did not feel right. And I kept telling Song for a week after that I want to report these people. Let me try to minimize the sound of the air conditioner. Okay, I'm back. I told Song that for a week that I wanted to report those people. Something did not sit right in my spirit, and I did. I reported them. I thought, I don't know, y'all need to investigate that. I couldn't, it didn't sit, and I'm so sorry if I got their business shut down, if this is the first time they ever did that, if they just saw me as a trustworthy person. But something did not sit right in my spirit that day, and I said, no, I need to report them, and I did. I reported them. I'm like, yeah, they had me working there, and they didn't know me. They couldn't pick me out in a lineup. If I did something crazy and ran out the back door, because by the way, the bathroom was by the back door, And I guess that's why they were so worried about the children running out. They may have had a child run out of a back door at one point, and they did have the door cracked at one point. So maybe that's what they were worried about. But my thing is that you don't know me from a can of paint. You don't know me at all. You left somebody else's children with me. So these aren't even your kids. That's the worst part. But yeah, I have hundreds of stories like that. If y'all ever want to hear my Indeed horror stories, I might make this a series because there's so many. And I just recently, like a month ago, stopped messing with Indeed. But I tried to work with them, and I found some jobs, some good jobs through Indeed. But the way you have to go through everything to find certain things is insane. So I hope you guys enjoyed these stories. I will absolutely tell more if y'all want me to. I'm laughing now, but back then I was just not only scared for my own life, but scared for other people's lives going through this, because there are some stories about some people who actually went to the job, got hurt, and they got told, if you leave, you don't get the job. Yeah. And then they started listing that on the job because they absolutely have told you, like, yeah, you're supposed to come in and you're going to do a work interview. So you're going to do the job basically, and then you can leave. Yeah. So thank you guys so much for joining me. Oh my God. I did owe y'all some Indeed horror stories. I still have a bunch of them if you want to hear some more. I even have some for another website that I started using in between using Indeed. I'm going to tell y'all to, like, 100% from the bottom of my heart, go through the actual website. If there's a link to take you to the actual if there's a link to take you to the main website to fill out for the job, fill out through that way. Do not fill out through Indeed. And if there's no link at all, I would be skeptical and do research, because that's the only way I didn't get scammed, kidnapped, and probably part of some kind of crazy, like, I don't know, schmug deal or something. I don't know. People sending checks and stuff, and I don't know. Peace and love. Stay safe out there, everybody, please. If you're using Indeed, stay safe out there. Bye-bye.